Hey y'all, I'm Chris, and this is It Worth It, y'all? And you can see behind me, these are the onions that we put up a while back, and they are ready to be braided and stored. So today I'm gonna take you through that process. We did have some onions that were not able to fit on here, like the bulb didn't get big enough for it to stay here. So I'm gonna kick it back a couple days and show you what I did with that process of those onions that we weren't able to hang. And I'll show you how I preserve those, because we don't waste any onions, because we go through some onions around here.
So we had a ton of little onions that just didn't make it to the drying rack. And what I'm doing here is I'm just pulling those, getting them cleaned up, and we're going to use these in a recipe later. These are going to be the use first onions, so we don't waste all the teeny weenies.
So as you can see, here are our onions. They've been hanging probably about 5 weeks now, and they look a lot different than they did when we started. They are all nice and dry, and we are gonna do our best to keep the varieties separated, because we have some varieties that are supposed to store longer than others, and we're gonna try to keep them in proper size, because the bigger onions last longer than the smaller ones. So we are all focused on elongating the fresh storage version of these onions. So I'll pull some of these down and show you the braiding technique. All right, so I have pulled a ton of onions, and what I am going to do is I am going to move the camera. Let's get down here where I'm at. Okay, and I'm gonna braid onions. Now, here, let's go right here. Let's see if that'll work better. All right, I'll show you how to braid onions. If you can braid hair, you can braid onions. What I like to do is try to keep the size head of the onion, the bulb, similar in size, because we have found that the smaller onions go faster, so we want to use those first. So if you have ever braided hair, you know how to braid onions. Start with 3 onions. You go over, and then over, and then you take the other one and go over, left side go over, okay? And I only like to do 2 passes before it's time to go in with more onions. Then I like to line them up like this, so you got one in the middle, and then we can start laying more onions in. So whichever one is in the middle, so this guy's in the middle, so we put one here. Then we cross this guy over, add an onion, put him in the middle. Next onion, we'll go, we just laid that guy in, so this guy needs to come over. So then we put an onion on this side, and there goes the process. Okay. I was just demonstrating with you on the table. I also like to pick them up and do it like this and hold it in my hand, so then I can like place an onion where I want it to fall, so it turns into a nice braid all the way around. Now, Greg will prefer, let me back you up again. Sometimes Greg prefers to have them flat on the ground, or flat on one side, so he can put it on his wall. I don't do that, because I just put these in the basement and that's where they live. And so I like the idea of letting them float around in space. So like this one's getting a little flat on this side, so I'll put an onion on the back side of that. And just keep going. And it's not hard. The other thing you gotta worry about is if it's getting heavy. See? If it's getting heavy, that's something you need to pay attention to, because you don't want these onions to fall off. So, I don't know, I think I've found like maybe a dozen or so works. But you can gauge it because the larger onions, you braid less because they are just massively huge. And they weigh a ton. See, I got a big gap here, so I'm gonna take 2 of these little onions and I'm gonna put them in this big gap right here. Okay. Put those in, wrap that around. Add one here. Wrap that around. And you just keep doing this until you get all those onions braided. Now, the other thing that we like to do is we'd like to braid as many of these as possible, because we have found that putting them on the concrete or anything like that next to the concrete in our basement makes these sweat and they start to sprout. Okay, that's enough onions. That's getting heavy. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish off the top of this. I'm gonna braid it like I started. Just keep going. Finish this. See? Turn it into a braid. Make sure you get all the pieces in there. Then this wild and crazy mess starts actually turning into something that looks pretty. Look at that. Now, you can also go through here and cut all the strings off and stuff, but we'll do that later. So this is the first one of many. So, all right. There we go. Number 1. And this is about, what, 10, 15 onions, and we did 390. So I'll probably put you on a time lapse because you don't want to watch me do this. I don't even want to do that math on camera, but a lot. So here are our candy onions, and these are our ringmaster onions. So this is about half of what was up on the board up here. There's my lovely mess. Let me take you up here real quick so you can see. So I've got from here over braided, and from here over is what's left, which are, these are the Walla Walla onions, the red candy apple, and then the Pattersons. So I'm just gonna keep going. I feel like it's 1,000,000 degrees in here. I'm gonna go get, oh, my face is red. I'm gonna go get a drink of water, take a break because I'm just sweating profusely. And I'm gonna come back out and finish these. And I will bring you back whenever everything is braided and ready to be put in storage. So I only found 1 onion so far that had turned to mush. It's on the floor with all the rest of the stuff. There are a couple of onions I'm not gonna braid. I'm not gonna braid that. And then there were a couple of onions that are not dry, like they have started to sprout. And so this part is not dry, and this will just rot and rot everything around it. So I am not going to process that onion. So, like I said before, this is a lot of work, but this is the best way we have found to store onions, is braided and hanging from the floor joist in Greg's basement. So I'm gonna keep going. It's a dirty, hot mess. So see you whenever I'm done. I'm gonna go take a break now because I'm out of water. All right, about an hour and a half later, here we go. We got all of our onions hung up. And I am very, very pleased with the outcome. They're gorgeous. They're all up. We only had about 10 that we really couldn't hang, or that we only had, and we had one or two that were rotten. So that's good. I'm glad they did it now. Now, over the next week or so, we'll come down, make sure everybody looks good. And then after that, about once a week, we come down and just kind of do the check. We'll go through and use our noses. And if it stinks, we will try to seek out which one it is. But they are all hung and they look absolutely beautiful. And I'm very pleased with the outcome. So harvesting our onions is done. It's not just the day that you dig them out of the ground. Today, I can say that the 2025 onion harvest is complete. And it's beautiful hanging here. So like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And until we see you on the next video, bye y'all.